decision about whether masks should be required in schools led to a packed room in Clay County tonight, as many parents are giving the local health board a piece of their minds.
KCTV5's Betsy Webster is live tonight in Liberty. So, Betsy, have they voted yet?
Not yet, at least not as far as I know. Oh, wait a minute. It looks like they might just have voted. I had to step out 4 minutes ago, and one of the board members was suggesting they table the vote. If you can pan off of me right now, you can see there's some sort of chanting going on inside. I'm really sorry I had to step out to stand by for this. Board members went through 30-plus pages of health guidance for schools, piece by piece, and this is an animated, perhaps even agitated crowd. Even after public comment was over, the discussion between the elected board members was punctuated with interjections from the audience. Before anyone knew what the guidance was that they were voting on, it was clear that the piece people were most passionate about was masks.
The current public health issue for our children is not a virus, it is a mental health crisis.
This should be considered child abuse and is completely uncalled for.
Seeing them in school, not interacting with their friends, teachers getting mad at them for pulling their masks up over their nose.
Freedom of choice is always the answer because the experts do not agree.
Take off the masks. Are you following the science, or is this political theater?
Those who oppose any mandate, like the ones you just heard from, were the dominant voice. At least 200 people were present. Public comment took up 3 hours. Less than 20% of the speakers were in support of a mandate.
While everyone is entitled to their opinion, it does not mean that we and you need to heed them when they seek to create a health liability for members of our community.
Trust and know there is a silent majority of people who do feel all the mitigation measures are important.
Our body, our choice. Now you can see these are some of the folks who stuck around for the final moments. There were about 200, almost, maybe a little more than 200 earlier tonight. And these are the folks that are left. Because I was not in there at that very moment, I'm relying on their word at this point. They told me that the vote was to table a vote. Well, the motion to table was accepted, so no vote tonight. Now, I am going to go back in there and try to get that confirmed with the health department, but I'll tell you that what they're looking at right now is guidance. The final decision is up to the individual school boards. However, 2 of those school boards in Clay County have already instituted across-the-board mask mandates because they have schools that are in Kansas City, Missouri. Not all of their schools are in Kansas City, Missouri, but some of them are, and as you may know, the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, did issue a mask mandate that extends for about a month. Live in Liberty, Missouri, Betsy Webster, KCTV5 News.
This is just a perfect example of people trying to be rebellious, anti-authority, loudmouth little brats. Thinking, well, under the First Amendment, I can say whatever I want to and just make myself look like a complete idiot. You know, I can say whatever I want. No, you can't. Okay? Just because you have the liberty to be stupid doesn't mean you should be stupid. Alright? Now, from this video clip that you just saw, I'm going to give rebuttals to the main statements. At least responses. Okay? Here's the first one. Giving the Board of Health a piece of their minds. Giving people a piece of your mind is a negative, aggressive approach. It is a way of whining and throwing a baby fit like a toddler. That's what these adults are doing, professing adults, like Pastor Loudmouth Wagner. This is public protesting, which should be illegal. Allowing a mob into a building to protest is one of the dumbest liberties allowed in this country. It should be illegal. Period. Secondly, agitated public crowd punctured with interjections from the audience. Wow. Notice the negative aggressive terminology here. Used accurately from the reporter. Agitated public crowd and punctured with interjections from the audience. It is this way of a crowd being angry and being aggressive towards authority. I'm reading off my notes here, that's why I'm not looking directly at the camera most of the time. But see, People should be arrested and put in prison who disrespectfully interject their opinions in public policy, like Pastor Loudmouth Wagner and his village followers, whoever they are, to protest, which is basically what it is, at the school board meeting, which I guess is what it's supposed to be. Let me tell you something. People tried this in the Old Testament and God killed them for it. Just saying. God did not put up with such nonsense, so why should our government put up with these loudmouth whiners that make a big deal out of nothing? Why? Next, this stupid woman says, the current public health issue for our children is not a virus, it's a mental health crisis. Really? There is no science to back up that wearing a mask will harm a person's mental psyche or mental health, especially children. There's no evidence. That is a made-up fantasy fairy tale that these loudmouth protesters just make up because they think their voice should be heard. No, these people need to shut up or put in jail for disturbing the peace. Yes, they should. Another stupid person says, this should be considered child abuse and is completely uncalled for. Child abuse? According to who? You? You are not the final authority. You do not dictate what's child abuse and what isn't. Let's give the factual definition of what child abuse is. Dictionary, I think it's dictionary.com from Oxford Languages. It's defined as, notice, listen to it, physical maltreatment or sexual molestation of a child. How about childhelp.org/child abuse? Well, that's a good place to get a definition, isn't it? What is child abuse? The source says, child abuse is when someone, whether through action or failing to act, causes injury, death, emotional harm, or risk of serious harm to a child. Now let's think about this for a moment. Is having a child wear a mask physical maltreatment or sexual molestation or any action that causes injury, death, emotional harm, or serious harm to a child? Really? Let's think about this. Is wearing a mask causing harm to a child? No. There is no science, no evidence, and there's no case where just the act alone of wearing a mask is going to put a child's life or health in jeopardy. So the stupid false accusations from these loudmouth protesters should be considered criminal because she, as well as everybody else, has accusing the school board of something that there's no evidence of them doing. These loudmouth protesters need to shut their mouth and obey authority. Oh, by the way, and just so you may have thought that I was not going to touch on this, and there's also a clip of stupid, loudmouth, arrogant, conceited pastor Wagner. He says, take off the masks. And then asks the stupid question, are you following the science, or is this political theater? Take off the masks? You don't have any authority, Pastor Loudmouth. So you have no authority to make such statements or demands. You don't. Secondly, you don't have rights. Rights are an egotistical, God-complex mentality. Rights do not exist. Secondly, Pastor Loudmouth Wagner, your question is completely inappropriate and shows your stupidity on a stick. Are you following the science, or is this political theater? Duh. What science? You realize he did not provide any according to this clip. Mother.ly. I think .com, I think. Well, here's the source here. I'll leave the sources to these sources I brought up in the description of this video. The article says, no, making your child wear a mask isn't child abuse. If you see a child wearing a mask in public, please do not waste the time or resources of emergency services. Posted April 28th, 2021. there's probably a lot of sources backed up by science that you could use to back up your claim that wearing a mask is not child abuse. So, brethren, this arrogant clip, you're fighting the wrong battle. And I'm going to go through the comments that I left and then his conceited response by a lengthy, self-righteous Pharisee sort of response. I'll show you in the next part of the video. Stay tuned. Wearing a mask is not child abuse.
Here's a screenshot for his video. He says for the title, get this, the title says, "I was on TV last night." That's a very egotistical thing, wouldn't you say? Anyways. Here's his channel, Pastor Wagner. The Excelsior, if I pronounce that right, Springs Church. Okay. He says KJV only. Really. Well, by his comment response, you will see, brethren, that he's not really King James Bible only because he doesn't really believe what the scripture actually states. He doesn't believe it. He believed parts of it, but not all of it. So, here's the first comment I left on his stupid video. I said this: "You professing Christians need to get a life and go after the real issues." Let me ask you something, brethren. Where did Jesus ever make an issue and protest or revolt or flaunt the authority of the Roman government? You won't find one passage. Did he ever encourage his followers to? Not on your life. So, nothing wrong with my comment. They need to get a life. Okay? Jesus did not go around making political issues. So why are these professing fake Christians making a big deal out of it? Here's my lengthy comment. I said, "Sorry, but all of you are fighting the wrong battle, making a big deal out of nothing. No child is going to die from wearing a mask. Scripture teaches in Romans 13 to obey the laws of the land, unless they tell you to violate Scripture and moral ethics, which wearing masks does not. You are to be quiet and do what you're told. You don't have to like it, just like there's many things at my 2 jobs I don't like. But unless they violate those 2 things, I need to be quiet and do what I'm told." That's scriptural, Romans 13, for example. This is just another arrogant attempt for parents to be anti-authority. If you saw the clip and paid attention to it, you see that much is true. And just in case if you want to comment and question if I am a parent or not, legally I am. And I would make my child wear a mask if that's what the law demanded. Even if it's simple, just a rule at a school. If they make the rule, you are to obey it. I meant what I said. Now, here is Mr. Loudmouth Pastor Wagner's response. It was a long one. So I'm going to read the comments and then I'm going to show my response to his statements. He gives 3 points, so I'm going to respond in 3 points, so you'll know which one I'm responding to. First, he says, "It was a meeting about whether the county should give guidelines to schools about masking children. It is not a law yet. We have the right to let our opinions," sorry, I misunderstood his comment, "be known to our elected leaders. Leaders have no right to force parents to mask their children. Scripture gives parents, not bureaucrats, the authority to train and provide for the health and welfare of their children." Those passages he gave. "Rulers are instituted by God for the punishment of evil and the praise of them that do well." He gives more scripture. Look, I agree with those passages that he gave. I agree with those passages. The problem is he uses them out of context to think that he can just run his mouth because he's American. No. Anyways, moving on. "It is not evil to instruct one's children to not cover their face with a mask. It is not evil to have one's children breathe fresh air and interact socially with others, neither of which can be done properly while wearing a face diaper." Just on a side note, are you seriously suggesting, Pastor Loudmouth Wagner, that you can't talk to people and socialize with a mask on? I do at work. He goes on to say, "It is done properly while wearing a face diaper." He just contradicted himself. First, he says, it is not evil to have one's children breathe fresh air and interact socially with others, neither of which can be done properly while wearing a face diaper. Now he says, it is done properly while wearing a face diaper. He just contradicted himself. Wow. Check your grammar and your sentence structure next time, Mr. Wagner. It is a good thing to protect one's children from forcing masking, which damages their physical, emotional, and psychological health, as many parents attested to at the meeting. Therefore, rulers have no right under God's law to force parents to force children to wear masks. For rulers to force parents to mask their children and punish them if they don't is for them to punish them that do well and to promote evil, which is directly opposed to the purpose that God instituted for them for. Therefore, if they are not to be obeyed, when they are not fulfilling God's decreed function for them, we ought to obey God rather than men. Acts 5:29. You are failing in your God-ordained role as a father if you would be willing to abuse your children by forcing them to wear masks because some tyrannical, I hope I pronounced that right, bureaucrat told you to. Shame on you if you would not put the health and welfare of your children ahead of some unlawful, that is, order of a tyrant. Wow. Okay. Well, how did I respond to this? Here is my first response. Approximately 1 hour after that. Pastor Wagner, you obviously have a churchianity cult mindset. Show me one passage where Jesus or the apostles ever led a revolt of protesters towards the Roman government. I bet you $1,000 you can't find it. Let's see the passage. I challenge you. Comment number 2. Also, show me anywhere in Scripture where the citizens are to dictate what the government can and cannot do. You can't find it. They tried that in the Old Testament, and God killed them for it. And they were protesters that gathered against authority. Challenge number 3. Show me where Jesus said to rebel against the government of wearing a mask. You can't find it if you searched all night. I bet you $1,000 you can't find it. Show me the proof. Challenge number 4. Show me in Scripture where it teaches, I'm going to say where it teaches, we have rights. It doesn't. Rights are a fairy tale idea that's really teaching a God complex. You basically said in your comment that it's not evil to instruct children not to cover their face. However, it's evil to go against authority that say you need to cover your face for your health and well safety. Well, I didn't put well there, but yeah. Yeah, it is evil to go against authority. You really think these rulers are sitting around just making up rules because they are bored in their office? I don't think so. You've got to be kidding. Next comment. Show me Scripture where it teaches that covering your face will damage your health or it is wrong. You can't find it. I bet you $1,000 you can't find it. There is no evidence that wearing a mask will damage a child's health. There is no science to back that up. You're just making that statement up because you don't want any government telling you what to do. Next, you state that we should obey God's voice rather than men. Show me Scripture that wearing a mask is sin. Again, I bet you $1,000 you can't show me a passage. That's $4,000 I am betting that you can't answers. I'm going to put answer, sorry for another typo. My challenges. You probably won't even attempt to answer these challenges because you know you don't have an answer. I'll be waiting. Once again, I repeated, I'll be waiting.